All right, so we have a really good episode for you today. I didn't record a video yesterday when the market went up really well, but I wanted to touch base on it today because we had another good day today. So some big themes we want to talk about today that really drove the market. Number one is initially we had Moderna. I think it was Moderna came out with a vaccine, or no, Pfizer came out with a vaccine, but you had to keep it stored at negative 70 degrees Celsius. So you had to have specialized freezers, which means if you're a hospital or someplace where you're distributing the vaccine, you need to buy a specialized ultra cold freezer. Well, the other day, I think it was Sunday night, early Monday morning, it came out. The Moderna came out with their vaccine that Pfizer was 90% effective. This was 94.5% effective, and you could store it at 2 degrees Fahrenheit, which means you could stick it in basically a regular commercial freezer, or fridge rather, that most hospitals have. So most every place has it. So it's a huge, massive competitive advantage that Moderna has over Pfizer. And so the market went up again, plus this massive efficacy. So for example, 94% efficacy means if you give it to 100 people, 200 people, 195 of them will have, 198 of them roughly will have, 197, 198 of them will have, what is that? Why is my math all bad? So if we do 0.945 times 200, 189. I was going to say no wonder that. So if you give it to 200 people, 189 of them stop having COVID. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. And you can stick it in a regular freezer. So the market kept going up and up and up, particularly travel stocks and particularly oil stocks and things like that. So if we look at the stock market today, again, we don't follow necessarily the S&P or the Dow or NASDAQ. We look at all of them today. The Dow was down, half a point. NASDAQ was down 1/4 point, and S&P was down 1/2 point. And yet we went up 2.5 points today. So that is working in a really positive direction. And really, for all intents and purposes, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel for COVID. But let's talk a little bit more about COVID and what's going on. So number one, we're going to talk about, we're going to look at that one. So we look at some things that we looked at came out in the last couple of days. Number one, Elon Musk got tested for COVID, and then he basically took 4 tests in the same day. He was negative twice, and he was positive twice. So he took 4 tests in the same day. He was positive twice and negative twice. So he went on Twitter and wrote this, and I love the guy. He goes, something extremely bogus is going on. It was tested for COVID 4 times today. 2 tests came back negative, 2 came back positive. Same machine, same test, same nurse, rapid antigen test from Becton Dickinson, BD. And so that makes you wonder about the COVID positive test. So we're going to talk about what's going on countrywide, but we'll look at San Diego because I think it's a really good microcosm of what's going on. So first of all, we had to note that with all the crazy stuff going on today, there were no COVID deaths yesterday. None. County of 3 million, 6th biggest metropolis in the country, no COVID deaths. And yet we're in the worst tier of case rate per thousand, 8.9. We're well above 7, and yet the test positivity rate is 1/4 of what it takes to get there. I mean, if we were test positivity and it was the tier system on what gets opened, we would be sitting here in orange, and pretty much everybody would be pretty much all open, 75% restaurant capacity, all that kind of fun stuff. So we look at it today and we say, oh my gosh, I'm feigning outrage. New cases today, giant, went up to 1,000 cases today. Oh my gosh, this must be horrible. I mean, this is going to be terrible. This is worse than over the summer. I mean, everything's going to hell. Everybody's going to die. All right, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. So we look at the testing. Well, the testing's gone up dramatically. I mean, they're testing way more than ever. Look at the amount of tests we did. We did 20,000 tests the other day. And yet, of that, 600 were positive. So what does that mean? Well, it means we did go up a little bit, but we've been down, honestly, in the 2% range for a while. We've been up 4.32% overall, which, again, would still put us in this orange tier which is just would be phenomenal. And there's like, I think there's like one county in California that's in that, but we would be on that if that was be their metric they used. So then you say, well, how bad is it? I mean, if you have this many people getting COVID, I mean, the hospitals have to be swamped, right? So if that's the case, we should expect to see hospitalizations go up. No, not really. They're still relatively about the same. The trend line is about right there, pretty dead flat. We start to look at how many beds are being used. I mean, they have to be swamping the beds, right? I mean, our bed capacity is 6,000. There must be like 3,000 or 4,000 people with COVID in there. No, the amount of people with COVID is 365, and it really hasn't changed. So if we look at where things jumped, we'll just say October 31st, call it Halloween. And then we look at hospitalizations for October 31st, which is right here, 85. So we have an increase of 33 people in the hospital with COVID. And maybe they had COVID already. Maybe they went to the hospital because of COVID. And yet the increase is, let's get down to here, is 352 versus 1,087. So let's take a look at 1,087. All right. So we'll go 1,087 minus, was it 382? I think that's the number. 705 more people in the matter of like a couple weeks. And yet the amount of people who were hospitalized was 33. So we'll just do a rough number. 5% of the people that got COVID got hospitalized. That's it. So 95% plus of the people who got COVID in the last couple weeks either have no symptoms or have, pardon my outrage, sniffles. Like, they're not doing that rough. They're staying at home, they're isolating, and they have sniffles. You know, shocking that somebody would have sniffles at the same time. Now, the other thing they found was that when they test for COVID, a lot of times the ones that come back with flu come back for COVID. So we don't know how many of these were flu. We don't know how many of these were colds or how many of these actually were COVID. But we do know that the hospitalizations aren't changing. And we know at the same time that the use of hospital beds really isn't changing. The percent isn't changing. And in fact, if anything, the number of deaths is dropping. This is the best number we've had pretty much since, early March roughly. This is the best number we've had since, basically St. Patty's Day for the most part. The one thing that we've noticed, we'll go back to the people that have died. I looked at a stat today and they said 2 people under the age of 20 have died in the state of California totally, and like pretty much everybody else is over 75. So we look at the people that have died. All of them have underlying health conditions, except for the 67-year-old. 92, 53, 62, 83, 56, 72, 76, 82, 76, 83, 81, 92. Long life right there. 93, 73, 49 had underlying health conditions, probably diabetes. 59, 89, 89. And this is male, female in the same area. So I'm guessing we talked about this earlier, husband and wife. But again, it's all hitting old people. So they're getting a vaccine. These people, once they get the vaccine, are going to be done. The majority of people who are dying, look, of all the deaths, these people are going to get vaccines. So you can just eliminate pretty much the people first who are going to get this. You can eliminate these 3 columns right off the bat. And if they really want to start giving it out, you eliminate these 4. And the only thing left are going to be people age 50 and above, and they just pretty much never get it. And in San Diego, we have no deaths. So once this vaccine starts to get distributed, you're going to see these deaths plummet. Well, the reason I bring that up is because, where is this here? This dummy basically said he's considering, he wants to do a curfew, which, by the way, is completely unconstitutional, will never hold up. And he said that he was copying that from certain countries, one of those, and he said these words, if you can believe it, Saudi Arabia. And he kind of smirked because he even realized that he knew that this was not going to fly. So they're doing all these crazy things because you have these power-hungry politicians but yet we look at all the numbers are looking really good. They have a vaccine coming out in the next few weeks, maybe a month, whatever. It's going to eliminate all these deaths in the future. There's going to be really nothing left over. Nobody's dying. The hospitals have more beds than they can count. In fact, they probably wish they had more people in their beds, because the amount between this number and this number is the amount of money that they're losing by not having more people in the hospital. So they actually want more people in there. So it's actually hurting them. And really any increase in cases we see right here is because of spikes. And so as a result, the market sees that and the market goes on a tear. So let's take a look at specifically what I'm talking about. The market's gone up dramatically. We went over 100,000 and we're staying over 100,000 in our portfolio. And this doesn't count this $5,525 sale of one of the stocks that I had, which would mean we'd really be up closer to 110,000. So overall, with the market surge, people realizing that the end of this is near. XAN, which was down 40% for me, is about to go in the black, which is amazing. That's a commercial real estate REIT, because people realize that restaurants are on the comeback. I'll give you an example. There's a restaurant in January around the corner from me that went out of business. I don't know why. It seemed like they were doing pretty well, and it wasn't because of COVID, because the last day of business was January 30th. Well, it turns out there's a new restaurant opening there. It's not a chain. It's not like a McDonald's or anything like that. I Googled them. I couldn't find them. It's a small restaurant. And so they're opening up. So I'm like, wow. And it caught me off guard. I'm like, these people are opening up right now. But yet there's a confidence there that it's going to work out. Yuko is about to go in the black again, which again, it seems to be, it's a lagging indicator of oil production. But we're going to see this one jump probably in the next month. IVR, which was down 30%, just went in the black today and dipped a penny, 336 versus 337. They're basically in the black. And then we look at some of the other ones we have here. Once that's done, we have everybody in the black except for GNC, which I'm just holding on to. We'll see what happens. They're in bankruptcy. But we have Signet Jewelers, and we'll talk about that in a minute. They're at 341%. They're almost quintupling my initial investment. From there, we have Caesars Entertainment, that's more than tripled on its way to quadrupling their investment. We have RWT, which is a REIT, same thing. Crestwood Equities, an oil stock, it's the same thing. The 100 plus, the ones we've doubled, we have Azul, which is a British airline, Brazilian Airlines. Every, they're the ATM company in Vegas. They're on their way to tripling. PVAC, an oil stock, they've doubled and they're moving toward tripling. And then we have a bunch of them that are moving in the right direction. BHR, which used to be our best performer, is on its way to being doubled right now. Overall, things are going awesome. For what we bought these stocks for, we're close to doubling them on average. And from what we initially invested, the $33,788.63, we're at 153% gain. So we're almost on our way to tripling that as well. Now, one of the things we noted today, this is a banner day, we have our first time ever where we have a stock that went in the red. What that means is we projected the difference between their February, their upside, which is their February 22nd price, was $28.68. And what it fell to, we ended up buying it for $6.50. Well, it's now $28.70, so it's actually above that. So technically, if I wanted to right now, I could sell Signet and make my approximate profit off this, but we're going to let this one ride a little bit. DraftKings in the red, mainly because it's not really a COVID stock per se. It's just a really, really good stock. FANG is another one that's close to doing that. That'll be probably number 2 that comes by. And then we have Crestwood Equity and Caesars will be the ones following that. So overall, things are going in an amazing direction. Now, the problem with that is that I don't know what to buy. I had a limit order for Helix Energy, but the market's gone up so quick. This is not even realistic anymore. So we're probably going to cancel this out, and I figure out what I need to buy. So I went to my upside, and really the only ones that I see here, there's not really anything I could buy for the most part that's going to drop my cost basis. So I could probably do PBF again. So I'll consider that. So let's go to PBF. And Texas Holdings is another good one. So we have that one is a potential. We already have that on the list. Condor, I don't know much about. And then the next one we have is Helix right here, which is still, we might buy it, but we'll see where it comes up. But again, it's only at 2.65. And beyond that, I don't really see a whole lot that jumps out. So what I was thinking was, I'll keep an eye on these, but I really want to see a day rather where I see some of these prices drop dramatically, like we have a drop, so I can take advantage of the dip. Beyond that, we have limit orders, which actually are about to sell. IVR, I canceled that order and then reestablished it. It got up to 345, so theoretically it could have sold. So I reinstituted the sell at 340. It's sitting at 336. That's going to sell shortly. I'm only selling part of the shares because I want the rest of it to ride a little bit, but we'll take some of that off the table. And then XAN, which is this commercial REIT that we have right here. We're going to sell that one once it hits 322. We bought it at 321. It's currently at 314, so it just needs to gain 8 cents, and then we'll clear out 3,700 to reinvest. So overall, this is what we're hoping for, guys. We invested on the front end to get to the back end. So if you haven't got started, I'm telling you, it's super early. There's a ton of money laying on the table for you. So get started right now and get your investment in. There's a link to a Robinhood account with a free stock inside the video description, and there's a list of the spreadsheet as well where you can take a look at this in greater detail and actually adopt it and use it. And if you want to improve it as well, use it for your own benefit. Cheat, steal, do whatever you need to do. But there's money to be made. So with that being said, things are moving in the great direction, guys, and we will see you tomorrow.
To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.